Charles Augustine, Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel, Chief Administrator Mrs. Denise Toby Kwashi, all secretaries and assistant secretaries, administrators, and accounting executives. Now, this afternoon's press conference is being hosted as a follow-up to the recently concluded post-budget retreat by the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly. As today, the Executive Council met with the Chief Administrator, administrators of the divisions, and accounting executives to continue discussions on the reprioritization exercise. So at this time, I'll hand over to Chief Secretary Honorable Augustine to share the pertinent information with you.
Good evening, Tobago. A special evening to those who are viewing from within the Tobago diaspora. We're always happy to have you as part of our conversations. Today, where we spent all day, and as you can see, as daylight is waning outside, we are still here at it, and we spent time going over the priorities of the government and the people of Tobago for fiscal 2024. We spent time looking at what we have as allocated to us, and we looked at the funding required to do some of the major projects across the island. We looked at what those priorities are division by division, and looked at how much it will cost and what kind of deficit budgeting we will have to work with for fiscal 2024. We also spent some time looking at additional funding options that might be available to Tobago to get its work completed for this year, fiscal 2024. As is the case with any government on any island, anywhere in the world, we will have significant plans, great ideas, significant needs, but that is always measured based on what is available insofar as financial resources to accomplish these projects. And so we spent time deliberating on that. We are grateful that we had with us all day today the Chief Administrator, who is here on my left. We had the administrators for the respective divisions also in the room. We had our accounting officers in the room. We had our project officers and our project people, as I call them, our PIU people, also in the room to help us in the deliberations. We had our planning department in the room with folks like Mr. Jackson and Mr. Bobby Andrews. We had MSU in the room, who is usually our go-to for constructing some of our policy matter on policy and human resource. We had legal in the room, senior legal in the room, as well as we had some of our state enterprises in the room, namely EID Court, TTAL, TRHA, SPEL, that's Stolly Park Enterprise, and some representation from the Esplanade and the TATCO also present with us today. So our deliberations were long. This, I promise you, would happen as per our custom, subsequent to the executive retreat post-budget, that we will have our annual November meeting to sit and to go through line by line the policy priorities of the government, how we are going to fund them, with very clear directions to each of the divisions, so that we can move in an efficient manner in the delivery that is required. We went through a lot, and at the end of this month, well, on the 4th Thursday of November, I believe that's the 23rd of November, I will be coming to the House to present in detail form what these policy plans are. And I'll be joined by the respective secretaries who will flesh out for you, the public, what are those policies, projects that will occur in fiscal 2024, so that you will be able to more or less create your own checklists at home and tick the boxes as they are delivered one by one. When we get to June in next year, we'll be able to give an assessment of where we are at with the delivery. And in June next year, we'll be able to tell you what we are having some difficulties accomplishing, because the truth is sometimes you begin a plan, you dream of a plan, and the delivery is a lot more difficult than you anticipated, and things do happen. As the saying goes, the best laid plans of mice and men do often go awry. And so we are also catering for that, even in our planning. The best preparation for execution is really good planning. And I believe we had great planning today. And we had so with the help of all of these lovely public servants in the room with us. And so we wish to telegraph that to the public and perhaps field a few questions from members of the media in the presence of everyone here in the room, so that we will answer as best as possible. But the fine details on all of those priority areas will be presented in the House in our rebudgeting exercise on the 23rd of November 2023.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief Secretary, Honorable Fali Augustine. At this time, we'll open the floor for questions from members of the media. As usual, if you have a question, just raise your virtual hand. Any questions? No questions? Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News. Good afternoon, Elizabeth. We're just adjusting the sound levels, Elizabeth, so if you can give us some minutes. So I'll just take this time to remind our viewers that we are launching Tobago Day. There's a media launch on Friday, so ensure that you join us on the Facebook live stream on the Office of the Chief Secretary's Facebook page. That's Friday, this Friday at 10 a.m. In the meantime, Elizabeth, if it's possible, you could type your question in the chat and I can just read it. In the meantime, Elizabeth, if you can type your question in the chat, I'll just read it.
I think they wanted to try again. So, Ms. Williams, you could try asking audibly again to see.
Elizabeth is asking, Chief Sec.
If you are hearing me, Mr. Chief Secretary.
Okay, we're now hearing you. We're now hearing you, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chief Secretary, to you and your team. What I wanted to find out from you, any sneak peeks in terms of telling us some of your priority projects, if any at all, will be affected in terms of numbers going forward, and what you are looking at in terms of immediately, in terms of medium, small term, medium and small term, in terms of going forward, and long term in terms of what you are looking at this time for the people of Tobago.
Okay, at the beginning of the month, I listed out some broad areas from that press conference that was telegraphed from Speyside. Some broad areas that we were looking at. You could refer to those as the broad project policy areas because I was pretty detailed then as some of the areas that we're going to look at. Of course, all of our priorities are affected in terms of spending, and I did take the time in Speyside to give the example of infrastructure and to give you the numbers, what will be left After paying the wages on the DP or the development, what will be left to do all of the development work? And I think that was about a $6 million we estimate to remain after doing all of the payment of wages on the DP level in works. But this is a division that we expect to complete the connector road to Crown Point. This is a division that we also expect to complete works on the Lamy Road up at Argyle. This is a division we expect to design and complete the Bad Rock Road. This is a division we expect to do the Turpin Bend going down to Charlottesville. This is a division we expect to patch and pave everywhere imaginable. This is a division we expect to remove steps in places where there are hundreds of them and replace them with road infrastructure, to do drains, to respond to the climate crisis insofar as drainage and retaining walls. So naturally, the output is affected. And one of the things we have been looking at consistently, and you could say consecutively, because we did that last year too, to look at where we can pull from other divisions to realize some of these projects that we determine as priority for the people of Tobago. So for example, we're looking at the Bad Rock Road, and I'll just give you one example. That road requires immediate work, and right now they're in the design phase and will soon be putting that out to the public. But to get that road done, it requires moving a resident and his house and household from Upper Job Street to widen that road to allow for a better thoroughfare on that end, so that we can close off Bad Rock Road to be able to do work at Bad Rock. In this fiscal, we may get to moving the resident at Job Street and widening Job Street and providing you with a design for Bad Rock. At this point, we may not be able to complete the work at Bad Rock. Those are the kinds of decisions that we have to take. And I will also add, one of the things that we discussed today, almost as a first for the THA and being fiscally responsible, is putting away monies for rainy days and having a rainy day fund, our own version of a heritage and stabilization fund. There is something called a contingencies fund, and when I come in the end of November in the House, I will remind you of where we met it, how much was in that fund when we got into office, what is there now, and how much we put in it at the end of fiscal 2023. So you can see our very deliberate effort to ensure that we create some sort of insurance for the island of Tobago so that we can respond more readily to some of the natural disasters.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Do we have any more questions from members of the media? I'm not seeing any more raised virtual hands. So if there aren't any more questions, we will wrap up this afternoon's press conference. Thank you, members of the media, for joining us. And of course, you or online viewers, remember to join us right here, Office of the Chief Secretary's Facebook page, Friday, 10 a.m. for the launch of Tobago Day. Thank you once again and have a good evening.